Okay, so we have people joining us. Good afternoon. Welcome to Changing the Game series, season 4. As you're joining us, if you feel free to put your name, where you're joining us from, what your role is in the chat. We'd love to know who's with us. And we'll be getting started in just a couple more minutes as we have a few more people hop on the line. So if you have any particular questions about our topic today around hot lead strategies and using online prospecting specifically to get more leads, feel free to put that in the chat or start to think about what those questions might be. And we'll have some time for some open Q&A before the end of this afternoon's call as well. So we'll give it just another minute or two. Welcome, Steve. Great to have you from San Antonio. A little bit well, we're finally getting a little bit warmer in Wisconsin. On Sunday, we had snow on the ground, but today we hit 60. So it actually feels a little bit like spring, a little bit more like it should be, but you never know in Wisconsin this time of year. Got a few more people joining us. And Ren, welcome. Great to have you from Boston. Last time we were international, we actually had somebody in Canada with us too. So it was like, wow, we were all over the place. Okay, we'll give it one more just minute and then we'll get into the conversation. We'll be recording it for anybody who comes in late or wants to go back and listen to our content from today, but want to be respectful of your guys' time and the half hour that we have scheduled together today. So just one more minute. Okay, I'm sure we all have a few more people hopping on, but we'll get started with things today. Welcome again to season 4 of Changing the Game. I'm your host, Jennifer Hensley with Playmaker Coaching and Consulting. And this season, we're talking all about hot lead strategies because while referrals are the lifeblood of your business, I really believe that in order to have a sustainable business that can really thrive long-term, it's all about having multiple lead channels that you can have coming into your business that you're not entirely dependent on somebody else, you know, what's in your control versus what you can influence. So I believe you have to have 3 to 5 different lead strategies. So a couple of weeks ago, if you were with us, we had Matt Thibodeau out of the Cunningham office in Denver talk with us about speaking engagements and how he's using that. And some great takeaways from that session that you can go back and to listen to if you missed it. And then today we're joined by Daniel Pfeiffer out of the Keeker's office in Indiana, not Indianapolis. I know you're in the, outside of there, but who's going to be talking about how he's been using online prospecting to get leads into his business. So as we get started today, we are recording it, like I said, so you'll be able to get access to that and we'll send that out afterwards. And if you have questions, start to drop those in the chat so that we can make sure to address those after our topic in 10. We'll open those up and we'll take them either from the chat or you can just unmute yourself and ask your question live. We'd love to have this as a dialogue. So welcome again, Daniel. It's great to have you with us. Tell everybody a little bit more about what your practice looks like, how long you've been in business, what your team is, some of the details that might be helpful to them to get a sense of where you're at.
Sure. So I am wrapping up, I believe this is my 6th awards year. So that's a little weird to say. I started as an intern, came full time. Most of who I help are going to either be in the dentistry space or they're going to be in what I would call more of the blue collar space. So more often they're going to start retiring. So it's going to be electricians, it's going to be trucking, it's going to be really those general contractor type businesses. And really for around here in rural America, like you said, I'm in Marion, so middle of nowhere, pretty much. We have about 5 team members on the team. We're typically, bringing in 12 to 15 million in assets a year. And then we're always right around Lives Later Summit. This will be the 3rd year we've hit it in a row. And then really, ideally, we're continuing to push towards Forum next year. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Well, I know we were talking before we went live too, and a little bit about your journey with online prospecting. So tell us a little bit more about why that's for you. Why is that part of your lead generation strategy? That is part of what you find as part of the value that you want to bring into your client base.
Yeah, I think it started exactly as why you said, right? Is we should have multiple lead channels. And so at one point in the business, as we all, at some point, we are activity driven, right? And there just was a lesser amount of time to have other places. So I was really trying to look for areas that, didn't take a lot of my time, but was actually going to move the ball down the court. And so as you and I talked about, going on probably 2.5 years ago now, we were in a small town America trying to get into that dentistry market more affluently. That was a really easy way to get in there. And it was just a numbers game from that point. And so it was very effective from a time perspective. And it was another channel that then we could keep moving in the other channels, and it didn't really impede in any of them. So you already mentioned last, speaking engagements, going to other places. This was one that really didn't take a whole lot of cost. It just took some, 15, 20 minutes every morning. And then really you could move on and move on through the rest of your day.
And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what that process has been and that investment, because there's probably people are wondering, how much money and time does it take? And there's different approaches to it. So we'll get into that a little bit more specifically. What is your goal from your online prospecting efforts?
Yeah, so the goal from it, like I shared just a second ago, the whole goal from it was to get into a new market and to then broaden that market. So dentistry, we had a few dentists locally. I love working with that group, but it wasn't like I had a ton of dentists within an hour of me. And so it was, how do I start to broaden that? And at this point, it's now how many introduction relationships can we make? That is essentially the goal. If I can get on the phone with somebody, I'm very confident from there we can eventually turn them into a client. If that's this year, next year, the other, I have no idea. But once we get on the phone, we have a pretty good ratio from that point forth. And so really the whole goal is to get there.
I have a lot of conversation with advisors too. Yeah, that the conversion is really good, but it's always like, how do we just get more of those ideal people in the front end and get them in there? So it sounds like that's what you've been doing. So do you have specific metrics at all of like, hey, we're trying to get 15 a month, or, or of all the people we reach out to, we want to get a certain amount in terms of what we're trying to drive with conversions? Like, how has that evolved for you over time?
Yeah, the more specialized you get with this, the better that will go. Okay, so right now we would like to get 5 to 7 introduction calls a month from just online leads, right? So that's going to be anywhere. I mean, it's a lot, right? It's a lot of numbers, but really it's probably going to take 500 to 700 of, now this generation system will get into it, but of messages to get to that. But it's 20 minutes a day. Like, it's really very few minutes that you have to put into it. And so that's really our target, 5 to 7 intro calls a month. And that's been working fairly well.
And if you get 5 to 7, knowing that you have strong conversions, like, what does that mean for you? What's the impact on your business by those 5 to 7 leads that you're getting?
Yeah, so I would say about half of that will convert within a 12 to 18 months period. So the hardest part, everybody probably feels this way too. The hardest part from the approach call is to get them on the actual discovery conversation. I would say just around half, maybe a little less than half. Initially, we'll just jump into that path. Right. So then it's following up with the rest. So now that we've been doing it for several years and following up, those ratios are starting to pick up, because we've shown consistency and we've had conversations that have gotten to know us. But, I think probably another year I'll be able to have really, really good statistics there. But I would say it's about half in the year. So if you do, what up 60, probably 10 to 15 in that year would convert, and then moving forward.
And it sounds like you've done a good job. You've been able to look at the data and make, decisions of like, what do you do forward, or get better ideas of, just like you do with, Granum and the 1031 of tracking, like what's happening there. So tell us a little bit more about how you've approached this, because you've been doing it for a while, and you said you've tried different systems. There's a lot of different options out there. You can do it yourself. You can invest in somebody else. What are maybe like 3 to 5 steps that you've taken in terms of approaching online prospecting?
Yeah, I would say any automation tool, and here's my little financial advisor disclosure, as long as it's compliant, right? So there's that conversation, right? But as long as you can get some automation tool, LinkedIn allows you to do 100 messages a day. So as long as far as investing for me, I really didn't want to be the person sitting behind the keyboard sending those messages. So automating that would be the first step. Maybe even before that would be targeting your audience, but having the automation system is probably the most important. From there, manually, I would respond. If they responded in, I would manually respond at that point. So that was the 20 minutes. So normally you'll get 4 or 5 responses. hop in there, respond back, and every day you're kind of following up with that. The third step would just be making it easy or efficient for somebody to say yes, right? So how are you providing value in that messaging? And that's going to be different for everybody. During COVID, it was very easy for the dental world because there was so much relief for dentists. So it was very easy to say, hey, are you aware of this? Let's talk about it. And then we could transition from there. For people I know, one of my buddies does this, is big into attorneys, and they have a specific student loan debt relief program that has come out for them. And so that's his lean in for younger attorneys. So it's a little different for everybody. But if you can identify that one, how do I add as much value in 5 seconds to you? That's where I've started to see things to get to be more efficient here.
Yeah. And have you, so at this point, are you doing different ones for different markets, or have you decided like, hey, we're just going to focus on this one market? What's been kind of your experience with that?
Yeah. So when I first started, I tried to say, okay, great, because I wanted to be in everything. And what I found is the only ones that were actually effective is when you can get as specialized as possible. And so like we used to do dentists. Well, now the only ones we really do are pediatric dentistry or oral surgery. And what we found is those two are more on media, predominantly from their marketing perspective. Your general dentistry doesn't tend to be on there as much. And so it's going to be kind of selective to where you're at. We did the, blue collar businesses for a long time. Well, let's be honest, they're blue collar businesses. LinkedIn isn't a super effective tool for that. And then pre-retirees was another sector that we tried, and that didn't work. The only other sector that did work we would do either regional managers or sales managers at publicly traded companies that were typically retail. So, Amazon would be a big one. We would do Bass Pro being the country boy, and we would do Cabela's, Tractor Supply, and those regional managers. That worked fairly well. So we've got those two streams that are running. So it's a little bit of testing because you got to figure out who's the one in front of their phone too. But we had about 5 streams running simultaneously, and we've reduced it now. We just have 2.
So you talked a little bit about what's working, what's not working, or some of the things you've learned over time and everything. Tell us a little bit more about, some of the learnings that you've had, because you've tried different systems. As you've been testing, these things, how long do you stick with it before you're like, oh, this is working or it's not working? Give us a little bit more insights into that.
Yeah. So number one, I'd say this is a 6-month venture before you'll even know if it's working, because you need that much compounding to start seeing it. If you're somebody's going to look in a 6-week increment, maybe if you haven't gotten any responses in 6 weeks, you got to change up your messaging. But as far as am I converting clients, this is a longer term stream. This isn't a quick fix very quickly. And maybe there's some people out there who did that, but my experience has been it took about 6 months in each stream before we started building enough momentum to see it really running. And really, like you said, testing. You just got to figure out there's all kinds of different strategies. Some people, they want to send out messages. It's like, hey, let's get on the phone and try and be a client now. To me, that didn't feel right. So I wanted to provide value. Hey, let's connect on an introduction call. Let's see if we can, build a relationship. And then there's others that's just like mass quantity. And then you would do posts to try and like engage that group. I think you just got to figure out which one works the best for you from that perspective.
Yeah. And we were talking about that. And one of the resources we have for those that are interested is this online prospecting that talks about some of those different approaches of using your existing clients and just sending emails as one versus kind of what Daniel was talking about of going after these mass messages just to set the introduction directly, or, more of a nurturing approach. So if you're interested in that, you can make sure to put your email in the chat and we'll send that to you afterwards as well. And you can check that out and give you some more ideas there on what's the right fit for you. Like Daniel said, how do you make sure it feels authentic to what your brand is and how you want to come across as you're engaging with people. So we talked a little bit about some challenges, some wins. What advice do you have to others that are maybe thinking about getting into this that we haven't covered?
Yeah, I would say number one, do your research as far as, I feel like I'm getting a new email almost every week about a new person who is doing LinkedIn messaging or something. They're all a little bit different. And in some ways they're all very similar, right? So the lead gen piece is going to be their sale, right? Is, hey, something's going to automate it to you. I'll be honest, don't go out and spend, there's people who are going to charge you $5,000 for it. And I just would be honest with you, I don't think it's worth that. I think we pay like $95 a month for, I think it's Ulink for ours. And that's the one we've used for going on 3 years now. And that's just been the most effective from that perspective. So I'd say do your research, talk to a couple others, get a feel for how that person is going to coach you or help you. Because I think some of the success we've gotten is from the owner of the company that we used. He did give us some coaching on the front end and helped us think through, how do you create, just like you shared there, how do you create your initial message and your next 3 follow-up messages if they don't respond, to make sure it's automated and off your shoulders. And then I think just be intentional, make sure you're following up. It can get busy. We're all busy people. That's why we're here. But it's also the idea of you got to be intentional and come through with it, because if you're not following up in a good amount of time, you're going to lose them. So
Yeah.
you got to be intentional.
Yeah, we're in the world, right, that people expect instantaneous responses. 24 hours is even, really acceptable to most people right now. We want to be able to get that email. I know I had it the other day. I think, I needed to reset a password or something. And I was sitting there waiting like 5 minutes for the email to reset it. It's like, we expect things to happen like right now so that we can do what we're trying to do or accomplish. So I think that's good perspective of timing is a big part of this. So how much are you doing yourself, or do you have any of your team members involved in helping to execute this strategy?
So this right now, I'm doing all of this, and like I said, it's something very easy in the morning. So it's just part of when I get to the office, I pull up LinkedIn and I pull up the tool and we walk through it. The nice part about any of the tools should do this at this point is it'll aggregate and actually have the people who've responded. So then you can just go into that system and respond to those people rather than going through all of LinkedIn. But it's 10, I said 20 minutes. I was trying to be generous. It's probably 10 minutes each morning. Right. So it's nothing I felt like I needed to hand off because the system's automating everything else for me.
But you've set aside that time of like, this is when I do it. So you don't just go down that rabbit hole of social media too, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm just perusing and now I'm sucked in, and where does the hour go? But very specific, it sounds like, in terms of like, here's what I'm going to log in, I'm going to do, and then you're on to the next thing.
Yep.
So we always want to give our audience some try it at work tips, something very tangible, like what's the one thing maybe they can do in the next couple of weeks if they want to explore this further, get their feet wet, or maybe take it to the next level. What's one thing that you feel like they could do just as a bite-sized piece to move forward?
Yeah, I would say if you have a niche already, I would just, if you're talking bite-sized, go send out 3 or 4 messages, craft an initial message. Hey, XYZ, have you heard about this strategy? Or, hey, there's this unique thing going on here. Have you heard of it? Whatever that is, and try to see how that feels for you as you navigate that. I think the hardest part about this was getting over our own mental hurdle of talking to somebody you didn't get introduced to. And I think that is the hardest part. Once you can get over that hurdle, the rest of it becomes fairly simple. And so that would be the bite size. I would say just try a couple on your own before you go automate it. And then do your research. It's not hard. You can Google any LinkedIn gen conversation and you'll get like 100 of them. Like I said, keep your price point fairly low because I think there's some people out there that are just kind of trying to rip you off. But for the most part, most friends who I hear use it, it's between $95 a month. I've heard as high as, like I said, $5,000. I think anywhere in the middle, you can have some conversations too.
Yeah. And certainly if you ask around, there's probably advisors within your offices that are using different ones. So you can ask them what they're using, what they like about it. Kind of to Daniel's point too, of, is it around getting straight to the appointment, or is it a little bit more of a nurturing and a slow burn of what works best for you? And in the resource, for those of you that have jumped on everything, and I've seen a few emails in the chat that are interested in the online prospecting resource, we have a few of the ones listed and can help give you some more perspective on research we've done with different companies on, how they approach that and what some of those price points are at, to help kind of give you some comparison information there as well, if you're interested. Yeah. So what else, or one final question, then we'll open it up to some questions. I see we've got something in the chat here, so we'll make sure we addressed it. But who else do you feel like this group should be hearing about when we're talking about hot lead strategies, doing new things, innovative things in the marketing space, or having some success just by being consistent? Who do you look to in the marketing space that this group could benefit from?
You've already hit a lot of them, but I don't, Ashley Russo is somebody I think the world of. I'm a fan I don't even know if we've met yet, but as much of the stuff that I've consumed from her, and then we've shared emails back and forth, I think she's somebody who just thinks outside the box and truly is doing it at a very, very high level. As far as that goes, I would also go Nick Packler. I think he's somebody who thinks very far outside the box as far as lead generation. He's somebody I've taken a lot from. He's out of New Hampshire. I think both of those would be the first two. I mean, those are the two people I look to the most when it comes to this stuff.
Great. Well, hopefully maybe some people will have on future segments. And for those that are with us, people that you might want to follow, check out what they're doing online, how we can learn from each other. So we're going to open it up to Q&A. If you want to unmute and ask your question directly, we'd love to have you do that. Otherwise, I'll look through the chat here and we'll take some questions and everything. So it does look like we have one question from Ren. Do you want to unmute yourself and just ask your question directly?
Sure. Yeah, I was just curious, you said the service that you use is $95 a month. Was that just how it was, or was there like a setup cost as well?
Yeah, I was trying to type, so I'm glad we're talking because I can talk a whole lot faster than I can type. But I believe there may have been a small setup fee with the individual coach. But as far as the actual system, it was just $95 a month. There wasn't an upfront fee or anything like that. It was with that individual coach. I'll be honest, it was like 3.5 years ago that I started doing this. So I don't know that I remember exactly what it was. But I would want to say it was like $1,200 or $1,500 for like 4 or 5 sessions with that coach. And that's where he was helping build some of that stuff. And then after that, it was $95 a month.
Okay.
And Daniel, did that require you to have a sales navigator as well? Or maybe you can speak to that, because I think a lot of those systems, they do require you to, to get the full benefit out of it, use Sales Navigator. So I know a lot of people have it, but not everyone does.
Yep. So it does require Sales Navigator. Predominantly, it's because you want to get your target audience, and Sales Navigator is way more efficient at doing that. You can still get it to work on LinkedIn. It's just really, really inefficient. Because if you're going to send 100 messages out, I bet you 25 of them won't even fall into the category, just because of the way that LinkedIn's algorithm works. So just it's a little thought there.
So as we have other questions coming in, I know one of the questions I get most often is around, how do I move from more people moving from more just connections to actually getting the appointments? So maybe you can speak to a little bit more about, what have you done with your messaging? How have you evolved things to not just get people to connect, but actually get them to have a conversation?
Yeah. So I would say number one, you just gotta have to ask, right? So I think that's the hardest part. Somebody will connect with you. So you send a connection message most of the time. Is how it sets. And my follow-up message is, hey, I try to be intentional with each and every one of my connections. And with that said, I'd want to grab 15 minutes, learn about what you do, learn about what we do. And I'm sure all of us have done that in some way, shape, or form in the past. And then we'll grab a 15 to 20-minute phone call. And frankly, I'm trying to give them as much of the time as possible. So, hey, you're on the call with financial planner. Just, will help me understand, what have you done? What are you thinking? What do you want to know? Like, just try to get some of them talking. And it's pretty amazing how quickly they'll just be like, yeah, like we've thought about talking to a planner forever. We just never have done it. Or, hey, this specific thing. So like, I said, the dentistry thing, they were like, yeah, we heard about relief, but we weren't really sure what to do. Like, should we do it? Should we not? Yes, you should. You were shut down for 6 months. Yes, you should. So just little conversations like that. It just depends. Again, I think the more that you can be like in a niche, in a specialized space, the better this will work. Because once you know your group as much as you can.
I know that was one of the, while you're reading that, I know that was one of the things that we initially talked about when we started working together, was around how do we get really specific about who your market is and the problem you solve. And it sounds like that's helped you in terms of your messaging, because then you've been able to hone into, what's on their mind? What is it that I can offer to them or bring that is probably, what they're thinking about right now.
Yep.
So I see there's another question there.
Yeah,
it looks like you've read that. So I'll let you go ahead and take that.
Yeah. So the hook, which I understand what you're saying, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there needs to be some type of hook there. And it has to be time given. So like for the dentist, it really did 2 years ago. It really was, hey, there's a COVID relief. Are you aware of it? And if not, let's grab 15 minutes to talk about it. I mean, that was literally it. I got more dentists to connect into our system during that 6-month period than probably any other period ever, probably combined, actually, just because I was at that relevancy, right? A lot of the stuff we've heard, right? It's tax planning, right? Hey, being a dentist is great. With that said, you tend to make a great income. And so because of that, if you believe in math and don't like paying taxes, we should probably connect. Or another one that I had done at one time was more around lifestyle. Most dentists, they want to live a lifestyle practice, but they just don't know how. And so they're in the grind. So I would say, hey, thanks so much for taking the time to connect with us. Excited to be a part of your network. I'm sure you're in the grind like many of us. If you'd like to figure out how to live the lifestyle practice, give me a call. And it was something just that short. I probably had 4 or 5 of them over the last 3 years. I try to change it every 3 to 6 months. But I would say those are the big ones for dentists. Is that helpful, Steve? Okay.
So we have time probably for one more question. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. And if you didn't get your question answered, or as you get into the process, you have more questions, what you can do is just email me at jennifer@playmakercoach.com, and we'll make sure that either Daniel or myself follow up with you and get you answers to your questions. And be sure to join the NM Facebook marketing group, and a great opportunity to collaborate and learn from a larger group across the country about what's going on in marketing and how we can support you. So the last question I have for you, Daniel, as we wrap things up is, there's sometimes this debate about, in that initial connection request, do you actually put a message in there, or do you just do the invite to connect? What has been your experience? What's your philosophy on that, of what works better from your experience?
Yeah, and I could be proven wrong, but at this point, we found it to work way better with a message in there. And so every connection that we're making through this system has a message going out to them. It has no presumption. We're not making anything there. It's just, hey, think the world of whatever thing you wanted to describe, would love to connect with you. And then there's a subsequent message after connecting. So you're trying to think of it as a funnel, right? Only so many people are going to accept the connection, and then only so many people are going to respond to your message. And then only so once you start to walk through that, you'll get a list of a few people who are actually engaging with you. And those are the people you convert into introduction calls. But I would always send a message personally, because that's going to separate you from all the spammers.
Great. We appreciate that perspective. Well, for joining us on the webinar today, we'd like to donate to a cause of your choice. So we'd love to hear about a charity or organization that you're passionate about that we can help support.
Wow, I had no idea that was happening. So thank you. That's really generous. Lester's Feet Foundation is probably the one I support the most. It's very similar to Alex's Lemonade Stand. We help support families who, frankly, they have a sick child and they aren't able to continue working, or something's happened to where the bills are paying up. Insurance will cover medical costs. They don't cover everything else that's building up. And so Lester's Feet will step in and help that individual family. Often, maybe they pay off a car to eliminate some cash flow, or we'll pay several months of their mortgage, or lodging, which is a crazy one right now, which a lot of people haven't thought about for COVID stuff. You don't normally can't stay in the hospitals anymore. And so a lot of that has been interesting to challenge. And so I appreciate you. That's very generous of you. And
that sounds like a great organization. I know Alex's National Lemonade Day is right around the corner and stuff too. So great to tie in with that and support people going through those challenges. So resources for this week. If you registered, you'll get the recording afterwards. Let other people know. We'll be back in 2 weeks again with Lauren Peter out of the Holter office here in Milwaukee. She's going to be talking about using your client engagement plan and creating a client experience that creates more raving fans for your business. And if you didn't already put your email in, if you're interested in online prospecting approach resources, drop that in the chat and we'll make sure to get that out for you. And try it at work tip that Daniel mentioned around, just start with maybe sending out 3 or 4 messages to your niche and see what kind of response you get, and then start to do a little bit of research and see what might fit with your brand and your approach. So one final thought for you today is, picture a day when over 30% of your connections actually turn into appointments. Picture a day when a prospect tells you, your message came at me at just the right time. I'm so happy you reached out. Picture a day when you have that steady stream of ideal new clients that are coming into you, and you can really spend time with the people that give you the most energy, and you can have the most impact in the business of your dreams. Your business is going to just skyrocket. So I wish you all the best. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Over this next week, we'll share some of the highlights on social as well from the conversation today, and look forward to connecting with you again. Thanks so much, Daniel.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.